Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Clegg, Dean of the school, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here today. It's a very special event. We're here for the awarding of the Goodermote Humanitarian Award and for the scholarship that is linked to that. So it's an exciting day. You know, and I think everybody knows who's here that this year's recipient of the Goodermote Humanitarian Award is Sam Waterston, who we're recognizing for his humanitarian and philanthropic activities, but who we all know is an award-winning actor. And I want to tell everybody today's event is going to be recorded and webcast for those who weren't able to be here. I'd also like to acknowledge a special guest visiting us today, Michelle Gabadon. Michelle, are you here? Please stand up. Yeah, Michelle is president of Refugees International. It's great to have you here. So now it's my happy task to introduce Dean Goodermote, who's chair of the Center for Refugee and Disaster Responses Advisory Committee and a great friend of the school. And he and his family have made today's event possible. Dean, whose name used to be Joe before he started to be involved with the school, and he liked my job as dean, renamed himself as Dean. He is a computer software entrepreneur, really a serial entrepreneur who started and sold a half dozen successful high technology companies. Most recently, he was chairman and chief executive of Double Take, and now he's working on a totally new venture called Vinyl Dreams, which is an app to have a virtual music studio on your phone. Dean sits on a number of advisory boards and advisory committees of several nonprofit organizations. He's a trustee of the Berklee College of Music in Boston and the New England Aquarium. And he's also here at the school not only chair the advisory board for the Center for Refugee and Disaster Response, but he sits on our health advisory board. You know, one of the things I found out soon after I became dean of the school is that people who care about the mission of our school, who care about saving lives millions at a time, have an incredible streak of altruism and decency in them. And it's wonderful for me as I meet with our donors and advisors. And Dean is really a prototypical person in that way. He's a great guy. He also teaches part-time at the prestigious Handelshochschule Leipzig Graduate School of Management in Germany, and he was recently awarded an honorary professorship of entrepreneurship and management there. So when Dean's not here at the school and helping us to save lives, he's an avid skier and snowboarder, and he's an accomplished musician. We're really fortunate that he's devoted to our school and to the Center for Refugee and Disaster Response because he has so many calls on his time, and that he spends some of it with us and helping us. We really appreciate it. I'm also proud to announce that his daughter Rachel will be joining our incoming class here at the school this coming year. So I know that Dean is going to continue to give to the school for many years to come. So Dean and his wife Diane and his family created the Humanitarian Award to recognize individuals who have contributed to promoting good public health and public health science, and to serve as a reminder of the great work of our school, and specifically the work that's done through the Center for Refugee and Disaster Response. In addition to his humanitarian work, they've also established in addition to the Humanitarian Award, they've also established a scholarship that's linked to the Goodermote Humanitarian Award. And that scholarship is given to a student, we're going to present it today, who has worked on international health and displaced populations. It's given in the name of the Humanitarian Award on behalf of the recipient. So it's my distinct honor to ask Dean Goodermote to come to the podium. Dean?
I don't really have to put the mic up, but I've noticed this is a good technique because you always look like you're taller than the guy that went before you. And thanks for all those nice things you said about me. You could have said more, but they were all true. And while we're at the point of saying thanks, I do want to say thanks for Dean Clagg's support of this and for his great support of the Center for Refugees and Disaster Response. I guess we've worked together on this advisory committee since the beginning, so that's really great. I want to also say thanks to the development staff here, because they have to put together this event. It takes a lot of effort and creativity, and particular thank you to Donna Tivol for all that you've done for this and all of them, because I usually forget to thank you. And then I think most of all, thank you to those of you that are here at the Hopkins School of Public Health, both as students and staff, for the work that you do. It's really, truly tremendous. I have a script that someone wrote for me about describing why we donate to this event, but I think it's really quite simple. It's about you. You're really wonderful people. Most of you are going to go out and do good things for the world for the rest of your lives. We were talking today. It's the cliche about you can give a person a fish, or you can teach them how to fish. And donating $1 to this institution is really like donating $1 towards creating a new fisherman. It's not giving you a fish, because you're going to go out and save lives millions at a time. Yeah, maybe I can use my daughter as a segue into this whole effort. By the way, I give money to my other people's kids. I don't give it to my own. So my family, which I'll get to Rachel last, my wife, who's the nicest person in the world, isn't here. She sends her greetings. She loves watching you on your TVs and movies, shows. She is doing something nice. She's with her octogenarian mother, who is slowly losing her mobility, walking through some of the great cities in the Mediterranean right now, probably for her last kind of little walking tour, so that's great. My son is taking final exams at college, and I told him to blow them off, and he insisted he wanted to do so. And then my daughter, Rachel, is trying to save money for her tuition, and so she said she couldn't take off work to come. Which I didn't tell you this, Mike, but she was really wrestling with Columbia and here, and I didn't put any pressure on her, but they did give her some money, but she chose here, and I'm really happy of it. And I was thinking, I'd sort of forgotten about this, but Mike was talking about the coincidence of my name. I didn't change it. I've always been Dean. And that I once used it at Columbia in kind of a bad way. And I manipulated my acceptance into a program with my name, Dean. They thought that a dean had signed something, and it sort of helped me. And I'd forgotten about it. I was with Rachel Columbia, and I sort of remembered doing that when this all came up again, and it occurred to me like a W squared SWD. What would Sam Waterston do? And this guy is class, integrity, intelligence, elegance extraordinaire. And if his name were Dean, he never would have done that, I am sure. But I did, and I will use that as a segue to get to the point here, is that we're really honored that Sam has chosen to honor us with his presence and associate himself with this award. We all know him as a film, movie, stage star. Many as Jack McCoy. with Law and Order, which, by the way, I'm an amateur musician. It has a great, and I play bass, and it has such a great opening line. And I got to say, I think the first time I remember you, though, was Nick Carraway in The Great Gatsby, a book I really liked in high school, I think because on the American literature list I had to read, it was a lot shorter than The Scarlet Letter or Moby Dick. But Nick Carraway, it's perfect because what is he? Well, he's the narrator, but he's also the moral compass of that story. So how appropriate is it that Sam took that role? Every other character is flawed except for his, and it's perfect. You can read about his numerous awards, very numerous, for his acting career. So I'm not going to talk about that because we're honoring him for his tremendous work elsewhere. However, it was through his career that Sam first became aware of the horrific conditions and disruption that lives faced by refugees and populations displaced by conflict. The remarkable thing is that he didn't just play his role in the 1984 film The Killing Fields, for which he was nominated for an Academy Award, and let it go. He made a decision to do something about it. The plight of Cambodian people touched him then, and it still does today, decades later. He dedicated his life to saving lives and righting the wrongs suffered by refugees. He's been involved as a philanthropist and activist with Refugees International for over 25 years, serving as a board member and is currently vice chair. Refugees International, by the way, advocates for life-saving assistance for protection of displaced people and promotes solutions for displacement crises. And I have to make one other connection, is that on our board was the former president of the late Ken Bacon of that institution. So there's a connection there between Sam and the center and Refugees International. And Michelle is also here too, so that's great. Humble and quietly committed to the refugee issues, he contributes his time, resources, and magnificent talent to advance the efforts on behalf of refugees and vulnerable populations worldwide. He is a true advocate, loaning his name and influence to persuade others to change policy to protect the unprotected, forced from their homes. He also has the vision to help prepare for future natural crises by supporting the Ken and Darcy Bacon Center for the Study of Climate Displacement. By the way, it's what my daughter's interested in. Do you have any money? As Sam wrote himself in the Washington Life article in 2008, a staggering 36 million people were forced to flee for their lives as a result of natural disasters. We aren't ready to mitigate the effects of climate-related disasters on people and minimize displacement, and we are not ready to face the fact that doing nothing or reacting weakly or slowly will have bad consequences for the security and stability of the world, he said. He espouses that we can and must learn from the floods of Pakistan and Colombia, just as many of you do here. And Sam has taken on this challenge and is working to raise public and governmental awareness about it to effect change and preparedness. That is quite a challenge, Mother Nature and the world's governments. Sam gives generously to help protect not only lives of refugee populations in need, but the dignity of humans. I think we've selected an exemplary person for the 2012 Goodermote Humanitarian Award. And before we do that, we have a little video we'd like to show. This is from Soledad O'Brien, the first recipient of this award. I'm new to technology. Needs some help there.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Soledad O'Brien, and I'm sorry I can't be with you today, but as a proud recipient of the Goodermote Humanitarian Award, it's a great privilege and honor to be able to say a few words about this year's Humanitarian Award recipient, the remarkable human and humanitarian Sam Waterston. I've had the pleasure of watching his career for many years, and most of you, of course, know about Sam's versatile and distinguished stage and film and TV acting career, but you may not be aware of the extent of his quiet philanthropy and his tireless work on behalf of several worthy causes, particularly to better the lives of refugees worldwide. Now, since the 1980s, Sam has generously given of his time, his energy, his counsel, his sincere passion, his dedication, and his money to support refugee issues. His role in the film The Killing Fields brought the horrific plight of Cambodian refugees to life for him, which led to his personal involvement with refugee issues. Sam's been a longtime board member of Refugees International and is one of its most tireless advocates. His selfless support of the world's most vulnerable populations displaced by war and disaster is genuinely important to him, and he works diligently with RI to help save lives and right wrongs. He's truly an inspiration to me and for many others to fulfill our potential and to make a contribution to the well-being of humankind. So congratulations, Sam, on being recognized by the Hopkins Center for Refugee and Disaster Response with this much-deserved award. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Soledad O'Brien, and I'm sorry I can't...
Take it away.
The nice thing about having so many nice things said about you in a row, mostly false, is that there really won't be any difficulty in annihilating them. I'm really very grateful to you for honoring me in this way, and I'll get straight to what I have to say. As I worked on what I might say today, I discovered that what I was writing was really for myself, a sort of soliloquy, a reminder to myself of what I think when I think about refugees. As such, I'm afraid it will seem vague, simple, redundant, and unnecessary to many of you, whose thinking will be more sophisticated, detailed, and insightful. Still, thanks for this chance to bring myself up to date with myself, so to speak. Refugee relief falls under the category of mending the world. Taking on the task of mending the world requires of me a certain amount of maturity about the idea of fixing things, even though the work of mending the world is often most effectively done by young idealists. Certainly the backbone of RI, its advocates, the ones who go out into the field at considerable risk to themselves, are nearly all young. And it's opposed to the very American idea of setting things right once and for all, to which I am drawn as a moth to a flame myself, and on which I singe my fingers every day. Mending the world is a job that has no end, like house repair or repainting the George Washington Bridge. Even as things are mended, even as people in peril of their lives are rescued, other things break and decay, other people fall into jeopardy. To take on the job of helping refugees and the uprooted, the IDPs, to safety, is to eventually have to face the fact that there'll be no final victory, because people fight, because people, in exploiting the planet's resources, induce disasters, so-called natural disasters, climate change and poisoning and fire, flood, and drought, that for all that they occur in the real world, in nature, are no more natural than a plastic bottle is natural. It's to acknowledge that there will be no sudden end to man-made natural calamities. There are lots and lots of us. We make exorbitant demands on the planet's resources, and there must be consequences. It is to recognize that there will be no sudden end to conflict. We are fighting animals. It's in our nature. It contributes to our worst failings, and it's also a great part of the best that's in us, part of our success as a species, at least so far. President Obama's Nobel Prize acceptance speech addressed these facts on a podium dedicated to peace. In the speech, he recognized the awkwardness of his position, but he's not alone. As citizens of a great power, as enthusiastic consumers of the world's goods, we all have to share in it, including me. Mending the world is a grown-up kind of answer to the excruciatingly painful position we all find ourselves in just by being human, that we can see the good, but we can't seem to become it. St. Paul said, "For I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I do." And nevertheless, we must try or cease to be human. I find myself in that position. Mending of the world is done in the context that we human beings are, by and large, a pretty sorry lot, a disappointment. We may be as noble in reason and infinite in faculty as you please, and still savage each other and disfigure the earth. To work honestly on refugee relief, you have to be able to acknowledge this, to inoculate yourself against any tendency to think of yourself as better by nature than your brother or sister who does the fighting, and say, nevertheless, onward. Because all this being so, the pertinent question, the practical question, is what to do now? We have it in us to do plenty. I don't have to be pure to do good, and my work doesn't need to be complete to have worth in it. Refugee relief is as natural to us as fighting ever was. If we are fighting animals, we are loving animals. If your only religion were science, it'd still be a plain fact. Love, self-forgetting, empathy are part of our DNA. The contradictions in our nature make being human awkward, to say the least, but the care that moves people to give their lives to the relief of the world's most vulnerable people is beautiful and right and natural and practical. Empathy and self-forgetting have as much to do or more to do with our success as a species as our appetite for a fight. People who foster it themselves and give of it to others are wonderful people. You're honoring me today as if I were such a person myself. I'm not, but thank you for saying so. It's the highest possible compliment, and I accept it in that spirit as a very high compliment, in spite of it not being an earned honor. I know I'm right about this. I've served on the board of Refugees International for more than 25 years, and I know what it looks like to dedicate your life to refugees. I've met people who do it. I've known very well people who've lost their lives doing it. I won't say I haven't been useful in my way, here and there, as a bullhorn, as a person who can sometimes help call attention to things that matter. And that's the point. If I've been useful, then I'm proof that being useful isn't beyond the reach of anyone. I've noticed that among the people who do really give important help, among just the ones who found their way to RI, there have been lawyers and doctors and diplomats and college kids and retired entrepreneurs and financiers and businessmen and women and actors and civil servants and homemakers and housewives and rich and poor and just okay, of many creeds and colors and from lots and lots of different countries. I conclude from this that making refugee relief the work of your career, your most important mission, or a not so large but still important part of your life as it is in mine, is open to every single person in this room. One such man that I know of is in your midst. He's a doctor. His name is James Colby, and he's very much responsible for my being here. Let this be an encouragement to everyone in this room. There could be no better reward for being here than if something were to spark a few people who hadn't thought of it before to put the plight of refugees at the center of their view of the world. In supporting the magnificent, self-forgetting people whose mission in life is refugees, I've had plenty of time to think about refugees issues, and this is what I think. I think that putting refugees at the center of our view of the world would go a very long way toward mending it. It is a fulcrum on which very many things turn. The way the world thinks about refugees, the way the world reacts to them, is a very tidy measure of our humanity, of how close we are to what's best in us, of how much we are masters of our nature. It's a measure of our dignity, our worth, and of how reasonable is our hope of making it. Changing the place of refugees in our thinking and planning would not change everything, but it would change a lot. Refugee relief is, first of all, a movement of the heart. Its source is the same as the response of the Good Samaritan. It comes from deep within our nature. It's one of the things that makes us admirable, beautiful, and we know it. But every time we react to a refugee crisis, we find ourselves at a fork in the road. Will we continue to ask only, how can I help, and only after the fact? Or will we also ask, how did this happen, and try to prevent it? Will we forever be picking up the pieces and denouncing the villains and despots and tyrants after their work is done? Or will we work to stay their hands before they do all their harm? In Casey Stengel's famous words, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. I'm drawn to anything that promises to get at the heart of a matter, especially to finding the small seeming changes in thought and behavior that might affect the whole course of subsequent events. Lincoln said that a man standing in the river of events can change, just by his body, change the whole course of history. I think that putting refugees at the center of our thinking would do just that. And to my way of thinking, RI comes at the tragedy of the more than 40 million refugees in the world today from that right direction. To say the obvious, refugees are no accident. Refugees and IDPs don't come out of the air, don't just arrive, don't just happen. They are creatures of policy and exist as the direct result of high decisions made by the powerful to destroy a munitions factory in the middle of a city, say, or to kill soldiers hiding in the population, to destroy the will to fight among warriors by raping their women in front of their faces, as we heard about just this afternoon, to encumber an enemy's ability to maneuver by flooding the territory with panic-stricken, homeless, and hungry civilians, to use non-combatants as hostages for ransom. The whole sorry list of ways non-combatants are used as weapons of war. Policy declares them collateral damage. Policy decisions. It is a policy decision that they are to be ignored. And displacement crises are an indirect result as well of decisions by people who aren't war makers, who don't remotely consider themselves to be war makers any more than we are likely to think of ourselves as killers of coral reefs or melters of ice caps when we fill up the car with gas, but who, by the way they live, feed the beasts that threaten the innocent bystanders. Refugees are no accident. We are much too ready to think they are. The recipe for mending the situation is simply said, change the policy. What people decide to do, they can decide not to do, even in the world St. Paul describes, especially if they think of it before the fur starts to fly. The speed of change in modern life is a commonplace. It's often lamented. How can we possibly keep up with it, get a handle on it, react in time to it, to the everlasting and ever-accelerating change around us? Again, the reason to despair, to me, is the same as the reason to hope. Putting aside the fact that this is also a period of accelerating impatience, today, as never before, change, enormous change, really unthinkable change, can happen in a hurry. Why shouldn't it be for the better? The change probably won't be in our natures. Based on his Civil War experience, Oliver Wendell Holmes concluded, between two groups of people who want to make inconsistent kinds of worlds, I see no remedy but force. And Walt Kelly, the great cartoonist, had Pogo, his great cartoon character, say, "We have met the enemy, and he is us," on the first Earth Day in 1970. But the way we make war is a choice, and so is how we exploit the Earth's resources. We don't use mustard gas by choice. We agree that there is such a thing as a war crime, and we have courts to prosecute them by choice. Horrified at the destructive power of nuclear weapons, we tie their use up with treaties and struggle to reduce their numbers and limit who has them. Practical people conspire to eliminate them. If it is a choice, not a convenient, inevitable result of our nature, why should refugees and IDPs be consigned to second or third or last place in the planning and execution of wars? Why shouldn't their abuse horrify us when we do it, even more than it appalls us when our enemies do it? Nothing but our own thinking prevents us putting the innocent victims caught in the crossfire at the center of all our considerations about war. Nothing but our own thinking prevents us from putting climate displacement at the center of all our thoughts about how best to make use of the earth. Changing how we think about these things may seem like a tall order. It is a tall order. As a proposition, it appears to contradict the very nature and idea of mature and persistent and incremental mending of the world. But I don't think it really does. You can't do even the most modest kind of mending, even of the front porch steps or a single cable of the George Washington Bridge, unless you are clear about your destination. In our world, the unimaginable happens about 5 times a day. The next day, it's a commonplace. The day after, it was an inevitability. The foundations of change I'm talking about were all laid in our nature and have been in our thoughts for a long, long time. Why shouldn't this be their time? There's a long way to go. In his Nobel Prize acceptance speech, Harold Pinter quoted a respected American diplomat as saying, "Let me tell you something. In war, innocent people always suffer." That statement can be read in a number of ways, as a lament, as realism, as appalling indifference, as a dire warning against the use of force, for example. I'd like to read it, and I'd like you to read it, as the way we all presently tend to think, that once war gets going, all bets are off. But there are already limits, amounts, and degrees and kinds of innocent suffering in war that we will not tolerate even today, that make pariahs of their perpetrators and sometimes even land them in court at The Hague. We should fight the tendency to allow that statement any latitude in our heads, to think that because that's the way it has been, it's the way it will be always. Nonsense. It hasn't always been this way. It needn't always be this way. We need to restrict that idea's freedom to get around, give it less and less room to function, less and less air to live on. We won't succeed, but we will get somewhere. And that's what mending the world is all about. So I've had my head in the clouds a bit here today. You won't catch anyone at RI with their head in the clouds. Any more on the basis of what I heard this afternoon, you will catch anybody in this institution with their head in the clouds. Their heads are all in the details. Working to change the way the world does war, the way it does climate change, doesn't look or sound anything like this talk. It looks much more like this letter that RI wrote to the White House on Friday, January 20th of this year. It's a statement on the launch of the National Action Plan on Women, Peace, and Security, and I'll read you a few parts of it. Refugees International congratulates the United States government on this impressive plan to empower women as partners in peace and security. Just a few years ago, such a strong, far-reaching plan would have been unthinkable, and we commend President Obama for his leadership on this issue. We believe that the National Action Plan is a true recognition of the importance of women as key actors in post-conflict reconstruction and peace building. In joining the 32 other countries that have completed similar action plans, the U.S. has sent an important and unified message that preventing abuse and exploitation, protecting women from gender-based violence, and engaging women in peace processes are all vital to long-term state stability. Vital to the success of the plan will be its implementation, of course, across all government programs, with an emphasis on enhancing accountability and monitoring mechanisms. We look forward to being involved in the development of the President's implementation plans, especially in Refugees International's areas of expertise. This is the dry stuff out of which a fire is made, how real change is made. Note the emphasis in that letter on implementation. This is how the determination that the world will gradually come both to make war and to use the world in a different, still imperfect, but better way gets translated into action. I don't know what the world may look like when the change is made. I'm pretty sure once it is made and seems normal, when any other way of going about things seems aberrant, abhorrent, stupid, and cruel, that a scholar will look back and point to the work that RI has done and point to the work that Johns Hopkins is doing in calling attention to ignored IDPs in Iraq, for instance, to calling for the planting of trees and the storing of supplies to mitigate the effects of unprecedented flooding in Pakistan, for instance, to advocating for worldwide attention to the Sudan after South Sudan voted to separate, to its foundational demand that refugees from Cambodia not be pushed back across the Thai border into fields of landmines and into the hands of the Khmer Rouge from whom they just escaped. I'm pretty sure that some scholar will argue that the inevitability of the change was obvious in all this long before it happened. And the world will take it all for granted in a day or two. That's the way the world looks at itself after it is mended. It forgets that there ever was a problem. And that'll be a very good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam, for those articulate and insightful words. It was great. So it's now my happy duty on behalf of the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health and the Center for Refugee and Disaster Response to present the 2012 Goodermote Humanitarian Award to Sam Waterston for his steadfast advocacy on behalf of refugees worldwide. Dean, would you do the honors, please? Okay. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Uh-oh. Okay, good, thanks. So each year, as I said before, the Goodermote Humanitarian Scholarship is given to a Bloomberg school student of exceptional ability and promise with a commitment to international health and specifically working on improving the health of populations affected or displaced by war, civil unrest, or natural disasters. This year, we've selected a student who meets and far exceeds all these qualifications. The 2012 Goodermote Humanitarian Award Scholar, given in honor of Sam Waterston, is Anjali Kohli. Anjali is a PhD candidate in the Department of International Health. She received her undergraduate degree in biological sciences from the University of Chicago and her MPH degree from the Tulane School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine. Her master's capstone project was on the legal and social issues of land ownership in Sri Lanka. Her PhD dissertation topic concerns risk factors and protection factors for family rejection and its relationship with mental health of female survivors of sexual violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Anjali is currently working with Center of Refugee and Disaster Response faculty member Judy Bass on research among survivors of gender-based violence in the DRC, many of whom are conflict-affected or internally displaced, and working also with Nancy Glass, a faculty member in our school in the School of Nursing, on a microfinance program to improve the health and economics of survivors of violence in the DRC. Prior to coming to our school, Anjali worked for UNAIDS in New York, the Sahara Center for Residential Care and Rehabilitation in Delhi, India, and Family Health International in Mumbai. Her focused research and dedication to health and human rights, health in fragile states, gender-based violence, and work of the center make her especially deserving of the 2012 Goodermote Award Scholarship. I'm delighted to award the 2012 Goodermote, this is hard to say many times, huh? The 2012 Goodermote Humanitarian Scholar Award in honor of Sam Waterston to Anjali Kohli. Anjali, please come up, and Dean and Sam, please join me in presenting the award. So we have a stealth photographer. He sits now while he's taking the picture. We can't tell who he is, who the real. But congratulations, Anjali. Much success to you in completing your degree and in your future career. I'm sure that we're going to be proud of your work, not only now, but once you become an alum. And thank you, Sam, for inspiring us by your good deeds and your advocacy, your articulate advocacy on behalf of refugees. You are an example of what one dedicated person can do to improve the lives of countless others, something that our school, our faculty, and our staff strive for. Thanks for working so tirelessly on behalf of refugees to improve their lives and the lives of displaced people around the world, and to have the foresight working with RI to plan for future crises to protect vulnerable populations. And by accepting this award, thank you for honoring us and for helping us to spread the message of the importance of public health and the health of populations worldwide, and assisting in our mission of protecting health and saving lives millions at a time. We're very grateful. And thanks to everybody for coming today to this ceremony, to helping us honor Sam and his commitment to improving the life of refugees, and to honor Anjali. I would like to invite everybody to walk down the hall to the fine stone room, and we'll have a reception, and you can get to meet Sam and congratulate Angeli in person. Thanks again.